Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce episode 30 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. In today's episode, we will meet the officers of the district's PTO Council and learn about the vital role this organization plays in connecting our schools and community. I will now turn it over to Superintendent Dr. Todd Robinson to introduce our guests and lead the discussion.
Well, thank you, Marianne. Excited today. I've hosted a series of podcasts, and I must say, I'm a little nervous today. This is an impactful group, and I'm excited. Just grateful that you guys took time to come and do this, and I think the growing attention that the district, podcast is getting. I really hope this reaches an audience that maybe we wouldn't engage otherwise in the busy lives of people. So I want to take a minute and just introduce our guests. So we have officers from the PTOC, but they're just really good parents who care a lot about kids in this district and have taken on this extra role to just make us better. So I'm always grateful for that. So we have the PTOC president, Joanna Sarah, from Amanda Moore Elementary, the vice president, Bethany Danofsky from Hamilton Parsons, and the secretary, Nadia LaPonce. Thank you for the phonetic help with that. Who is the secretary? She's a parent at Indian Hills. So ladies, let's dive in, and I'll just start with, I think any parent kind of understands the concept of PTO. And I know we've had a lot of conversations across the district at the different schools of, we don't want to have a PTO, we want to have a parent group, and there's just this whole stigma. But I think, PTOC is really at its, core, just an organization that unites our buildings together. So regardless of whatever parent group, it is, since I've been here, this has just been a place where we can get some people together. So I think it's important to hear from you guys because you're kind of leading this organization. What is the PTOC and who's on it?
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. And I love exactly the word you just used, unite, because this is exactly what the PTO Council is all about. The PTO Council is a group that has representation from every single building. So there's at least one parent from every building from Croswell all the way up to the high school. And it's a place where we don't want every school to feel like an island. We want an opportunity to bring everybody together to share resources. If you are trying to come up with a new idea or a new fundraiser or a way to run your Christmas shop, you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel and do all of that research when we can just come together and share all of our resources, which is exactly what we do via Google Drive. We're able to come together and brainstorm obstacles if we're having any issues and be able to say, hey, has anybody else come across this problem and what did you do to resolve it? And we come together and give back to the district through different events, fundraisers, and find different opportunities to be able to help wherever we can jointly together with a rep from every single school.
So I think the process is a little different. We know that our elementary buildings have, super involved and super engaged parent groups, and then as we move to the middle school, that gets a little less traction. It's a little less formal. And I think it's kind of representative of just where our kids are at. When your kids move into middle school, it's a nerve-wracking time, but they're looking for a little bit more independence, and they get that. And at the same time, I always tell people, like, when you have multiple kids in the district and that first kid moves into middle school, I don't want parents to have to spend a bunch of time at the middle school, and then their younger children don't get the same mom PTO experience. So it's really important. So I think our secondary buildings, it's a little different. It's a little bit more of an informational group. But I also have seen over the past couple of years how we're trying to scale those groups and have them do a little bit more specific to their school building and engage a little bit more in this organization. So when I first came to the district, this was a group that was shared with me that met a few times a year, and so after a couple of months in the job, got contacted. I actually think it was by Mrs. Foster said, hey, we meet, and typically the superintendent is a part of these meetings. Would you be willing to come? And I said, of course, great. And I found at that time there was really kind of a core of just informational exchange. Is there anything that you want to share with the group? And that was fine. And then, of course, with the pandemic, the organization just kind of just didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? There was a little bit of email exchange, and I'm not even sure if we ever really got to virtual meetings or anything like that. So there was close to a couple of years where there really wasn't much from the PTOC because our local PTOs weren't able to do a ton in that period of time. And then we kind of got back to our groove, and then I use this term like the group kind of reauthorized or recommitted, and I think that was really probably 22-23 school year, and maybe even a little bit in the middle of that school year. And so that would be a question is I just would ask, like, what was that reauthorization, and if anything, what's new with the group?
I would agree with you. During COVID, the things that happened, and the group got lost a little bit just in the shuffle of all the things that now parents were becoming educators at home, and there was just so much going on. And so it also happened that a lot of the representatives in the group, their students have graduated. So it just gave an opportunity for principals to choose new representatives from each school and kind of bring fresh new ideas to the group. And so we sat down and we said, okay, what is the focus of this group? And we came up with community, connection, collaboration, and communication to be able to just really sit down and figure out what kind of things can we contribute to our community that would make a difference by bringing all of these great minds together from every single school. And that's giving back and creating more events where parents can connect and being able to just get to know other people for when there's something that you need, really truly creating that village atmosphere.
So that's interesting. I had forgotten about the 4 C's. So now we gotta sit in those for a minute. So we talked about community, and I think that's self-explanatory. I mean, it's hard pressed to have a conversation with someone who's affiliated with our community, and not hear this notion of community, family feel, and things like that. And then this notion, you said connection, and collaboration and communication. I remember in the kind of reauthorization period, we've gone through these pockets of times where maybe certain schools felt like they weren't receiving all the communication, or they didn't really understand. And I even think in some instances, and maybe this is just me, like people thought they were missing out, so am I wrong in that, or am I off the mark in that, or was communication really one of the things that was super important for the group?
I completely agree with you. I do that. Those are some of the things that I also have heard. And that is one of the reasons that when some of the new ideas and fresh content came in, we decided to make sure that we have very solid goals and missions written down and a very solid plan on how communication is distributed amongst the schools. That after every single meeting, the representative shares at their parent group meeting on exactly what the PTOC is trying to accomplish and what support they need for their events and their fundraisers. And so now everything is a little bit more mainstreamed in our processes, and we hope to keep improving that moving forward. But I do believe that what you felt and saw was indeed true.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we feel now we're really excited to be kind of starting fresh and coming up with new ideas, new processes, how everyone is going to communicate back to their schools and with one another. So it's an exciting time.
And I think that's just, you talked about transition, and coming out of the pandemic, we had a core group of really dedicated parents that had been connected with the organization. Their kids were definitely moving into middle school, and even in some cases high school, and graduating. And so I think it's safe to say that, like, the energy and the core of the group is probably motivated from the elementary level.
Yes. Hmm.
But I've also said to a handful of parents, like, as your kids get older and you want to be able to do more, I feel like the PTOC leadership is a bit of like a soft landing. Like, you can get a little bit of your fill of being involved, because there just isn't as much to do at the middle or high school level. Um, so, so let's talk a little bit about, I think most people probably know of the organization or have learned of it just because of, you guys have done some great advertising, social media and things like that. We've leveraged Mary Ann's support, which has been huge. And that's really when events are coming around, like, the word is out. So they're like, oh, yeah, that's that group that did that, or I think they did that. So talk a little bit about recent events the group has sponsored or led.
Yeah, so we're again excited to let people know who we are, what we've been doing, and what we're hoping to do for the next school year and beyond. Last year, in the 23-24 school year, we did events such as the Mom's Night Out, the Wizards basketball game. Um, we have luncheons for the transportation department and the paraprofessionals. And then also the fifth grade mixer, which was brand new this year and a huge success from what I hear. We had someone from the PTOC leading that up and working with the middle school. And it was really cool to see literally everyone involved. So we had the elementaries involved, obviously the middle school, and we also had high schoolers involved, which was really cool. They got to do some coordination, some ideas, and it was really everyone coming together. Do you want to talk about Mom's Night Out?
Oh yeah. So Mom's Night Out started as an idea to another way for Romeo moms to get to know one another, so that when the kids go to the next school or if they are at the playground, they're going to see familiar faces. And what actually ended up happening is this event expanded to be a community event. So it wasn't just moms coming, it was women coming of the community. So it was really awesome. Everyone got dressed up. We had a really good night, really good night out together, getting to know each other. We had a super creative idea of matching earrings. So it almost was our icebreaker to have a beautiful new pair of earrings from women. It just to extra mingling sessions.
Yeah. And we're excited to have some of these events repeat themselves, maybe this next school year or beyond that. And always staying true with the paraprofessional lunch and the transportation department, because I feel like those are two departments that maybe, get lost in some of these appreciation weeks. And I feel really good about it kind of being our job to make sure that they don't fall in the shadows and that we're giving them the recognition that they deserve.
So, um, so you took on a lot, and I think I remember on
We're bored,
occasion.
Todd. We're really bored.
No, you're not. I remember on occasion, just when some of these events kind of overlapped, like there was just times where it was a lot, and I know that specifically the three of you, and I would argue maybe two or three others, really took on the load. So so thank you. I know that that's not something you guys desire, but known by myself, definitely known by some of our building administrators. And so, but I think in this whole scaling up some of these events, there were some lessons learned, so
100%.
Little off script but like, talk a little bit about that, because sometimes we get these great ideas and then you get in the weeds and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
So
We certainly, I mean, Joanna can talk about all the lessons learned with the Wizards game. It, like I said, it was a huge success. People started to recognize me in public, which was really weird for me. Saying, I think you were at that event, weren't you? And, yep, I was there.
I think for any group to take on 3 brand new entire community events is a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
Is a lot. I mean, it was the Mom's Night Out, the Wizards game, and the 5th grade mixer. To be able to put that together as a new event in the same year was amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I think what we learned is we need help. So we were able to make subcommittees. So it wasn't just PTO people,
Yeah.
like of the, the representatives. We were able to reach back to every school and get other parents and community members involved. So I think we were learning that as these events kept going on, like, wait a second, we have a bigger reach to people than we thought we did. So it was a huge collaboration and a community event for all of these events.
Mhm. And really tapping into the wonderful resources that are part of Romeo Community Schools. The high school volunteer group has been fantastic. The entrepreneur group has helped us out. So, and it's really goes back to communication and connection. So when we're all sitting around a table and we're all talking, it's like, oh, I know somebody. Oh, have you heard about this group? I can put you in touch with them. And that is really something beautiful about the PTOC.
And another thing that we learned too is people are starting to recognize PTOC and be like, well, how did you get to here? Because they don't know that there is a parent club.
Yeah.
So now it's like almost like a reverse communication, like, hey, your school has some sort of parent club going on. Reach out to your principal, reach out to parents. It's there. So it's almost, we're helping expand the communication within the schools as well to reach out to help in the school as well.
yeah. I remember the year prior, out of all good intentions, I think it was a couple of high school kids and a parent spun up this idea of the 5th grade, getting all the 5th graders together at Barnable. And this literally, I think, might have been maybe a month before where they were intending to do it. And somehow they got to Mr. Maritz, and, he was kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. So it was, within a couple days, it was like, good intentions, but let's give this some time. And then I think with just the planning that went across the year, it ended up being a great event. Because of the construction at the middle school, I was grateful that the high school allowed it to be, held there, and there's many facets of the stadium, the sound system and things like that helped. But I look forward to the fact that it would actually be held, at the middle school, because that's another opportunity for kids to put their eyes on, the building and experience some of the facilities. So my hope we get the back of that building, all done and tidied up enough that next spring we can truly make that just part of the transition from 5th to 6th grade.
Do you need the PTOC out there helping out?
No, we'll listen right now. Maybe you should take a little drive back there. Oh wait, you can't. So I just would share that, sometimes school people, sometimes staff, whatever it would be, parents get great ideas, and we really want to support them, but we can see things that, like, there's some challenges in this, and I'm just grateful how that was navigated. But I also have to be honest that sometimes we did sit back and go, they're learning.
But we're also so grateful to Dr. Robinson, because you didn't say no to any of these new ideas.
No. I just appreciate, like, I have to give a shout out to Mrs. Lees, because she emailed me at least 40 times about the buses.
Yeah.
And I probably owe her a bit of an apology, because I was like, do not worry about the buses. Like, that is the least
I think
of our
I've heard it
worries.
verbally a few
Yeah,
times too.
that is the least of our worries. So anyways,
Passionate parents.
yes. So some of these events had an intentional fundraising element to it. So why don't we talk a little bit about, like, maybe Joanna, you can talk a little bit, because I think some of this was kind of your brainchild at first, and then it kind of evolved, and now I think really at one of the final meetings we kind of laid some groundwork of what this funding would be. So maybe kind of just set the stage, and then you guys jump in as
Yeah.
there was a vision for this, to have this organization, and maybe I need to start by saying that the PTOC that I inherited had school PTOs donating some money annually, and what we were doing with that money grew over time. So from what I remember when I came, there was bus driver appreciation luncheon, and it was really like at 9:30 a.m. So it really wasn't a lunch; it was kind of a brunch, and it was good. I remember that happening. And then the group said, like, what else do you think the organization could do? And I asked initially, like, would you help us fund new kindergarten signs? And that was kind of a combo ask of using them for marketing, but also welcoming our newest students, and if handled right, the greatest graduation party artifact,
Yeah.
that can come out of the basement. So from there, it took on, some other elements. So talk a little bit about what the kind of the idea was, and you guys jump in.
So when I started about 5, 6 years ago on the PTOC, that is exactly what was happening. Is we would ask every school in the district to send money to the PTOC account for us to be able to do the things that we do. But when we got to brainstorming, we thought, why can't we do more? Why can't we not only not ask for that money, but find a way to make that money while encouraging the community to get together and also give back to some of those schools, which we ended up doing last year. Is instead of asking the elementaries for money, we actually wired them money to their accounts from one of our events. So we carefully decided on and planned some events where we knew that they were fun, and we weren't trying to make $1 million, but we were trying to make just enough to cover some of these things that we feel are essential for us to be able to contribute as a district group.
Yeah, so one of the things was the kindergarten signs, and of course now we do the bus luncheon and parapro luncheon, which are two separate events. And we also
We're brainstorming for next year. So we're in conversation with the middle school and the high school, talking about some of their needs and maybe some of those people that we could be supporting or appreciating with some of our funds. Maybe that's Teacher Appreciation Week at the middle school, and even starting a conversation with Croswell too. I feel like maybe they've been forgotten about a little bit, which my babies both have come from there. So I'm excited to speak with Janine more and just get involved and see what else we can
see
do.
what support they need. Because going back to Dr. Robinson, what you said, that volunteer parent really drops off at the middle school and high school, and they almost sometimes get burned out at the elementary level. And then once they hit middle school, I feel like it's not just our district, it's nationally the same thing. They kind of feel, okay, I'm done with my volunteering time. So that is something that we're trying to see if we can support the middle school, high school, Croswell, where they don't have as many parent volunteers as the elementaries do.
Yeah. And I think I'm so excited that high fives to us and this year, and that we don't have to go back to the elementaries and say, hey, can you cut us a check, when it sounded like they didn't even know what they were cutting a check for.
Yes, I would agree. And I think that's, it's interesting because I talk to the principals, parents talk to their principals, and then principals talk to Mr. Murray and myself specifically, and I think we have to be respectful of the fact that, some years school-wide fundraisers don't make as much money. Some, there's differing amounts that different schools make. And so, when the ask was X amount of dollars annually, and that was, and this school raised 1/3 of what another school did in their annual fundraiser, I really began to just empathize with, it's a different ask. So I'm grateful that the group this year, really kind of set out a plan to say, if we do these things and we do it well and we don't do too much, then we're going to be able to raise the money this year to fund the events for the next year, and the ask from the schools would inherently be nothing. And so I think we're on the road for that for next year.
100%.
We definitely have surpassed that goal already, so we're very excited.
Good.
Yeah.
And I'm just encouraged because those people who are dedicated at their own school building that maybe didn't really get this, and you know, I'm super, like, I'm supportive of, sometimes you can ask and ask and ask for people to help, and sometimes you just kind of volunteer people
Mhm.
to help. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a shift that's happening too, is you kind of mentioned, like, some people can't give all this time and come to all these meetings with their work schedule, but this unique event and this part of this event is something they can do when they have time, and sometimes those are the hardest things for us to find, especially
Yeah.
when we're coming down to the wire.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because I mean, it's my first year. My biggest is going into first grade, so I'm still learning too. But I've been hearing parents talk, oh, well, I don't go to the parent group because I, don't have time or I can't contribute. And that's definitely false. I don't want anyone who wants to contribute to feel like they can't, because there is some way for you to contribute. We are doing events in the evening. We are planning events in the evening and on the weekends, and, having email conversations. So if there are any parents out there that feel this way, please reach out to us. We will happily connect you.
And like the PTOC, because we're all together, we do talk about what each other's schools do. So when that does happen, we're like, oh, well, maybe that craft night or the arts night that you guys did, I brought that back to my school and was like, hey, this is a really good idea. Like, let's talk about this. So it's a way to save money for the schools, get more events out there, get more communication, better fundraising. I mean, the three of us were just talking about fun run shirts.
Yes.
Like, why were we not collaborating
Why?
with that
Why
earlier?
were we all doing our own thing when
Yeah.
we could save money by buying in bulk?
So not only are we fundraising for the PTOC for schools to save money, we're communicating and collaborating for the schools to save money that way with things that we buy every year. Every kid gets something, so let's do it together.
Working smarter, not harder.
Love that.
So, not on our script, so to speak, but I think this is something we should talk a little bit more about. This notion of collaboration and specific things that have been networked this year to support other schools. So I'm going to throw one on the table that I remember hearing about. There's some shake truck or something like
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
like, I think the first time it was mentioned, people were like, how much? And then all of a sudden, like, the interest in it and people coming up instead of doing the Dairy Queen or the Culvers or whatever, and it actually brought a lot of people out. So how about just a couple other examples of things? You talked about the art fair.
Yeah, what was it? It was like the painting.
It was a painting event. There's also, for example, all the elementaries do a holiday shop where kids can shop. Well, if we are able to pool our resources together, we can get better pricing. And why should it have to be really difficult for a school if someone's already got the plan and got it figured out?
Yeah. Or, and kind of going off of that, one school adopts a way of running a shop, and then it makes it that much easier for the next school to be like, oh,
Exactly.
how did that work for you? It worked fantastic, and we made a little bit of money. Cool.
Exactly. And not even for things that make money, but I mean, another example is the green team and the greening of all of our schools. And other moms from other schools have come forward and said, hey, how do I even get started? What exactly does this entail? What do we have to do to become a green school? And we're able to just share our Google Drive and our resources and say, hey, take a look at our application from last year. It's not that bad. Once you see it, we're here to help you. And it really does make such a big difference. That one little olive branch just goes a really long way.
So last thing, maybe in the lane of money and fundraising, I also recall some conversations, the second half of the year, and want to make sure that if any of our business owners, do tune into the podcast, you guys were pretty intentional about just that period of time where we were saying, hey, we got to get a little bit more, coordinated in the lens of, so we're not all, knocking on the door of the same, businesses in that. And although I think there's probably some work to do there with kind of coordinating that, and there's maybe some protected businesses for certain elementary schools, and that this community is so giving and grateful that there's plenty. But sometimes we just have to be a little mindful of we're not knocking on the same doors all the time.
Yeah.
And it's fair for them to just say enough, and if we can create an efficiency in that, so we're asking them once, but
Yeah.
if they're able to support maybe at the same level they would over 5 asks and just 1 or 2 asks, that would be great.
Yeah.
That is something that we're intentionally working on, to be able to find a way to split that up, but also keep it as fair as possible, but also offer an option where maybe there is a small donation to every school, and then they could, kind of like a lot of schools nationally we're seeing are doing, where you can sign something and give a small donation. You don't have to be bothered with fundraisers that year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an opt-out for them. So they give a donation and then they
Yeah.
won't be bothered the rest of the year.
Yeah,
So
more
that's
of like a
something we're
one-time-
working on.
Yeah, like if we all know that we're getting fun run money from ABC company, okay, well then why don't we just go to them one time and say, hey,
Exactly.
We're all
so
here.
that's something we're brainstorming.
for the year.
I think that was one of our things we learned with our events too.
Yes.
Was sponsorship.
Mm.
So that was one of our pain points that we are changing for this upcoming year of how we're gonna approach sponsors with our events.
Yeah. And just keeping
She's like segue. Like that was a little segue. Like she's done this before.
I'm an expert.
So let's look ahead. 24-25 school year. We got a little summer left. It seems like it's going pretty quick this year, but
Oh, we already met. We
Yeah.
we met in the summer.
Yeah.
yeah,
we were gonna invite you out.
Yeah.
plans and goals for 24-25.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying yeehaw.
Love
Get him,
that.
cowgirl. Yes. So Nadia and myself are working on planning the next Mom's Night Out event. We don't have anything completely set in stone. We haven't signed any contracts yet, but we are pretty excited.
Yeah, we're looking in November for like Mom's Romeo Rodeo. So Mom's Night Out, Women's Night Out, Ladies Night Out. Fill in the Romeo Pride in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
Little teaser.
there you go.
Get those cowboy boots and cowboy hats ready.
Yes.
Practice those line
Yeah.
dancing and hair braiding.
Yes.
So all those moms out there that didn't want to come to the mom prom,
Yes.
come to this. 'cause
Yes.
it's
Rodeo.
more Casual.
Yes.
Much more
100%.
casual.
It's
Yes.
going to be just as fun, but completely different from last year, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
So,
And I think then, of course, some of our traditional events, we're having some conversations about getting those kindergarten signs
Yeah.
geared up because they're coming, whether we're ready or not.
how many kindergartners do we have?
We're typically in the area of 340 to 360.
Okay.
We don't. I guess maybe we could clarify this. Young fives got to wait to get their signs until they're in kindergarten. So,
That makes sense.
so when we talk just about true kindergartners, somewhere in that area, and we're still enrolling. And it happens even sometimes where the bus drives by and people are like, "Hey, wait, school's starting."
Yeah.
So anyways, the appreciation days, we've been able to, to leverage the support in some cases of local businesses, restaurants. And I just, you all now have experienced a few of those, and it's like, sometimes I would share with the group, like, you don't have any idea how much these people getting to go have a big people lunch outside of the
Yeah.
school building really means a lot. Like our bus drivers, our paraprofessionals, our transportation staff, it doesn't take a lot, and they're super, super appreciative. And within an hour and a half, you guys put your spin on it and do a few raffles and give them a little door prize. But I think you've seen that those groups are really appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to do that. What else looking ahead? What about this Wizards gig?
Well, you will definitely have to keep an eye on the Romeo Community Schools Facebook page to see if there are any big announcements coming up. We can't give it all away.
I got it.
Yeah.
Another
I got
teaser.
I got it. So,
Either way, the PTOC is a group you want to know.
yeah,
You want to follow.
yeah. So, I think for parents that maybe hear this for the first time, didn't really understand the group, we've got this group that's trying to create some connection. Now you guys have really established the ability to raise some money annually and not ask for the schools to donate anything. In some cases, maybe even give a little bit back. But now we've got these things that we're going to fund annually, and have a little bit to maybe get some requests from the building level. I can tell you, Mr. Martz would love to be able to come to the group and say, hey, can you support, the cost to get all fifth graders to the mixer? And things like that, I'll support, the request not being overwhelming. Any other thoughts in terms of we think to next year?
I'm just excited for us to grow and to be able to support, all of the levels, and like you said, have buildings even coming to the table, oh, we need $500 for this, or we need $1,000 for buses or whatnot, and going back to that core in our mission of connecting and collaborating.
And encouraging parents to go to their parent club and to communicate with their PTOC rep to bring it to the table. Like, hey, this is an idea, this is what we need help with, to help people talk together and to solve issues that may be in other places as well.
That's probably a great point, where the organization doesn't ask them to come to another meeting.
Correct.
You guys establish this infrastructure with these reps and the officers, and then that communication system back to the local parent group. And I know that's happening sometimes because there's several weeks before the next parent club meeting, and there's some timely opportunities. So if there was anything for a parent to want to connect to the organization through their local PTO, and not an ask to come to another meeting.
Correct.
Consider participating in a couple events, and maybe supporting those in ways that are requested, but it all kind of funnels back through the local parent group. Anything else?
We're just grateful that we've been given this opportunity to be able to connect the schools even more. And just, it's so heartwarming to see how one little idea, one little spark can grow into such a big event and make such an impact. And a lot of the feedback we've gotten from these events and fundraisers has been so positive, and so many parents coming forward saying, okay, we didn't really understand this event, but we've heard and seen, and we're so sad we missed out, and we'll definitely never miss another event again. And that's just wonderful to be able to put on something for the entire community to connect and enjoy.
So my grandmother always said on Thanksgiving, many hands makes light work, when it was time to do the dishes. And I'll never forget that. And so if I would say anything on behalf of the organization is, kind of echoing a little bit, there is a way that you can support the PTOC. And that probably starts with just being a little bit more informed, and then just staying tuned to the opportunities throughout the year. And this doesn't necessarily mean another meeting. It doesn't even necessarily mean a financial give in many instances.
Right.
So for our parents out there, for businesses that maybe haven't been engaged in the past, look us up, reach out. We'll get you in touch with the leadership and the right people, and we'll continue the great momentum that the organization has.
And if there are any other districts listening and that you don't have a district parent group yet, please reach out. We'd be happy to give you the guidelines and the things we've already created to help your district start a parent group as well.
Definitely.
And you guys aren't going to be there forever, so there's always a transition. Your kids are going to get older, I am telling the group, your kids are young. We are not wearing you out. Like, we have a lot of time at the elementary level. So anyways, thank you very much. Looking forward to another great year, and PTOC is here, alive and well. All right.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson, for hosting today's episode, and a special thank you to Joanna, Bethany, and Nadia for sharing with our listeners how the PTOC lives its mission of community, collaboration, connection, and communication. Be sure to tune in next week as our summer series continues with a back-to-school focus. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com.